You open up Autocad, and if you first see this, you probably won't have any recent documents, but just go start a drawing. And when you start a drawing, okay, good. There's a grid that shows up on here. These grids, they're spaced at quarter inch apart. It's also, I think God, is that right? Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you roll your mouse in and out, you'll see a grid line here. Forget the scale on that, no big deal, we'll figure that out. Keep zooming in. Okay, good. So you got a major grid, you got minor grids. But double check a couple of things. If you look on this customization down here, make sure you have coordinates, model, space, grid, snap turned on. All these things turned on here. I'm not worried about these. I'm not worried about these. Click on units. And I think that'll probably take care of it. Because when you click on units, well, you'll see down here, this shows 38 inches and 3.7 inches and 0 inches. Because this is X, Y, Z. Okay. So down the bottom, we got layout 1, layout 2. These are 8.5 by 11 sheets. Okay. But what we'll do is when you open this thing, let's go File, Save As. So save. And I guess I'll just put it on my desktop for this class. But do the same thing that I've been trying to train you. This is going to be a .dwg extension. So here I'll put in 21 Weber. So your student number, last name, CM 115 spring. If I can spell 2020. This is all going to be one assignment. We have multiple assignments, but you can do everything in this one file. You'll see in a moment. And press save. Okay. Then if you see this is grid. You can turn on and off. This is snap. And so what can happen is you can draw lines that'll jump from grid to grid to grid, or halfway between the grid to grid. Let me turn those things off. This is ortho. You can only go up or down. Short function on this is keyboard F8. O-snap, object snap, the toggle this thing on and off, it's special key function F3. The grid key function, if you didn't want to use this icon, is F7. And no, grid is F7. I'm sorry. And snap is F9. Let's turn these things off, and I think we can turn that off. So if you look at layout 1 and layout 2, these are just 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. Okay. And so in model, I'm going to create a new sheet because we're going to do a title block. So you type out layout wizard, layout wizard. Okay. And it steps you through all these things. So instead of this thing called layout 1, layout 2, it'll automatically say layout 3. Let's just change this thing to site. And we'll have a few other layouts in the future. We're trying to set a title block up for one perfect site. Then you'll say next. It's going to ask for the printer. Now I'm off campus. Hopefully it's going to be able to find this Konica Minolta, which is down the hallway from me. Let's see what happens. Say next. And the paper size we want is a tabloid size, which is 11 by 17. Sometimes they'll say tabloid. Press next. And this is going to be, you want to print in landscape. So when you have long plots, they'll come out, the plotter will be up here, and the long sheet will come down here. The title block will be at this end, if you can see my mouse. And where the sheet is folded, this is where you staple the papers. Okay, so we'll say next. And then the architectural title block. Don't use the architectural title block, because look how big this title block is. That's for Narcissus Architects. We're going to use a generic one because it's a smaller title block. It gives us a bigger field for our drawing. And then we'll say next. And it's asking for a viewport. This is fine. We'll say a single. And we don't have to put it to scale just yet because it's easy to fix the scale a little bit later. But tell you what, our first drawing is the site plan is going to be at 16th in scale. So let's go ahead and put in the 16th. And then we say next. Then it says select location. Now watch this. Down at the bottom, it says layout 1, layout 2. Right now, when I press select the location, we will see a new sheet down here that's going to say site. Now the other thing too is layout 1, layout 2, all the things down here are going to be paper representations. and things will have to be scaled down. If you go into model space, which I will in a minute, because you do bulk of your work in model space, this is where you draw all your lines, and you draw everything exactly the same size as it is, okay? You don't have to scale it because the viewport inside these sheets, it'll scale it, and they can change the scale at a snap, okay? In a snap of a finger. So say select location. If you don't, it'll select location for you. So let me select this. When this happens, what you'll see if I roll my mouse up, there's a title lock. It's too big. Don't worry about it. This is 11 by 17 sheet of paper. And if you look at my cursor here, notice the digits. As I approach this corner here, it's getting closer to 0, 0. Okay, because that's in the Cartesian coordinates, this is 0, 0. If I move my mouse over here, you can see this is looking like 11 by 17 sheet of paper. That's good. Our border is going to be here. Our title block is going to be here. Our board is going to be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click a hole. And don't go out to the edge because we can always change this. Just click here and say finish. Now, this is a hole in the sheet of paper. I'll show you what that means well, I'll do it right now. If I jump, because we're done, but if I jump over the model space, let me turn on the grid. And if you float your mouse above the grid or the snap, right click, go to grid settings. So this thing is all set up for 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, but we're going to be drawing on a huge 200 foot by 200 foot piece of paper, so to speak, because our house is 50 or 60 feet wide. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the snap spacing to, let's just 24, which is 2 feet. Just put in 24. Because 24 in Revit is 24 feet. 24 in Autocad is 24 inches. Just do this one here because this says equal X and Y. This one will turn into 24 inches. Or both of these will turn into 2 feet when I come down here. So here I go. I'm going to come down here to change the grid spacing. I click here, and here we go, 24 inches, 24 inches. Notice it's 24.000 inches. We'll fix that in a minute. And the grid spacing, let's change this thing to 48. Because remember in our Revit model, we had our grid set at 4 feet, which is kind of cool. Works out really well. Then I'll say OK. Now what happens is the grid says, where did it go? Well, if you roll your mouse out, there it is. It's just a bigger grid. Okay. So these grids, each of these grids is 4 feet apart. If I call up a line and I click on, we don't have to snap to a grid. Let me take something out that might go out, here's 20 feet and 40 feet and 60 feet. Let me just click there, press escape. Okay. So in model space, we have a line that's about 60 feet long. Click this line. If you right click and go to properties, it shows you how long that line is someplace. Oh, it's in inches. Okay, I'm going to convert everything that we see. It's not going to be in inches. Let me close this out. It's going to be feet and inches. Now let me press escape because I got something going on. Now, let me press escape again. I'm done drawing the line. Down here, ideally, what you should see is this is it might be a little bit smaller, but you can make it bigger and pop it down here. We want to see 1, 2, 3 command lines. So down this command line here, I'm going to type in the word options. This is before we even get into do some drawing, because there's a few things we need to set up. Now the color theme I have, I think gotta double check. Well, you want the display scrolls turned on, so this is checked, because that way you can use the scroll bar up and down, left and right, so make sure that's on. And if you come in here to the colors, what I did is the colors, yours might say white or black, okay? I changed mine to white because it's easier for me to do screen captures and put information in the packet. Otherwise, if I do a dark background, it's a lot of toner when somebody prints my packet, and this whole screen here is not white, it's black. It just eats up a lot of toner. So close that out. Yeah, close this out. And then down here, the color theme, it's light. So this stuff is light up here instead of dark. So I just teach this way. And you can see there's so many other options around here that'll drive you nuts. So if your computer looks different than mine, then you know what I'll do is let me step through this slowly. This is what I got clicked on. Yeah, I slept this one here. This is what I get clicked on by default. Click on here. Those are the buttons and knobs that are turned on. As is this. Most of the stuff we don't go through, but if your computer's acting something different than mine, it may be in here. Now, of course, we'd have to get in here to look at some other things. So drafting, it's gonna look like this. You can change your crosshairs, the size of your stuff. That's 3D modeling, which we're not gonna do. That's selection, and then profiles. Okay, let me just say, okay. Then the other thing I'll do is, in the command line down here, type in units. Okay, press enter. And here we want to change everything to architectural. And we'll take the precision down. Since we're doing like this big house, we can take the precision down to a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. So all your dimensions will say 7 feet 3 1/4 inch, 7 feet 3 1/2 inch. It won't go 7 feet 3 and 1/8 inch. Okay. Now it just dawned on me. Sure, let's leave it at that for now and say okay. Now come down here, you can see that this stuff has changed out to feet and inches. Now let me come over to the layout sheet that we just made. Notice here's the line that we had in here. So this is a white sheet of paper. I'll get to this title block in a second, but this white sheet of paper, this is a viewport. So this is really a hole cut in the piece of paper, and we're looking down at that line. Now notice this, I can't touch the line, but now watch this. That's because I'm in what's referred to as paper space. If I click on the word paper, this viewport, it becomes bold. And so now we can jump through the viewport, and now I can touch that line I made. Okay, if I right click and gosh, oh, did I oh, I know what I was doing. I touch that line. Let me escape. Now I'm just looking at the viewport. If I right click, here's what I want to go to, can. So can, I can move the viewport. It's like a frying pan on top of a gas stove, okay, or electric stove. I can move that thing around. So I can get the image. So if this is my site plan, I can center it inside my title block. Now I'm in the viewport. Let me come back out of the viewport to come in the top of the surface of the paper. Because right now, hold on, where's my hand? Yeah, here's my hand. If I move my hand up above here, see, I can't see the hand anymore because the hand, that's my hand's, well, it's hidden underneath. It's in model space. But the top of this paper, it's paper space. So let me press right click and go exit. And let me press escape. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. Down here, this word will change from model to paper. Here's where you toggle in and out of model space. We are in model space. We can see our viewport. Now let me get out of model space, back up into paper space. You click here. This is paper space. You see this? I can't touch that line. It's down in model space. If I come over here, I can touch the viewport. Now notice this. It's 16th inch scale. Okay. And if I change it, look at it, 1:1, I can't see my drawing. And so I'll explain a little bit more when we get into that. But I want to go back to the 16th inch scale. So if your scale goes off, don't worry about it. You can always get it back. Okay. So I don't go too far in this. Then the next thing I think I'll do is we're going to take this title block and we're going to shrink it down to this corner by 50%. Let's see what happens. So under the modify, under the draw, this is line, circle, arc. We'll be discussing that. But in modify, this scale, see this little black box and this blue box? This is like a photocopy machine. You can shrink things up to make them smaller. Okay, that's what we're going to use. So call up the scale command. Look at the command lines down here. It's looking for, it says type a command. So if you know the shortcut, maybe S for scale or SC for scale, there's a whole bunch of shortcuts. You can Google it. But I teach with touching on icons. So if I select the scale, read down here, it says select scale, select objects. Notice it's plural, but it's only going to be one object. I'm going to touch this title block. Now notice this title block, you can't tell, but it's grabbing this whole rectangle and it's grabbing a whole bunch of lines in here. It found one object. This title block is what AutoCAD refers to as a block. It's one object, but we can explode it into a bunch of little things, but we're not. So I found one object. I'm done selecting the objects I want to make bigger or smaller. Then I'll press enter. Then it says specify base point. Well, if I click right here, this thing will get smaller or bigger based on this insertion point. So what I would do, I want this whole thing to slide down on the paper here. So I'll select this corner roughly. You're not going to get it right, just get it close. Click here, that's the base point. Now it says specify scale factor. I think down here, the scale factor, you can see there's a floating number, a floating thing, you can come down, or you can come down here and type in here. I'm going to put in 0.5. Okay, so it scaled it down 50%. Then, if you scroll in, notice it's falling off the page. Easy to do. You want to make sure you don't have ortho turned on down here, because it'll only make you slide this block up and down, left or right. So let's take that off. It'll be more free flowing. Then we use the move command and click this object here, press enter, and then you can, it's all relative. You can select anywhere and move up and down. And what you want to do is kind of center it like this, and then you're done. It's waiting for another command. Ideally, what we're trying to do is get a uniform border here and here and here. This side, not so much, because this could be wider. This black line could slide. This is where we're going to staple the plans. It's over here we want to see what's it going to be on title block, and that's going to be for another day. Down here, let me put in some text, and then we'll save the file and call it a day. It's a 17-minute video right now. If you call up the text, this thing pops up. Just click and let go and drag. Okay. What happens is this text editor box comes in here. It will give you a quarter-inch size text, and put in your student number. So I'm wherever, I'm student number 21, and then just click. See this quarter-inch text? I like that. Then move this thing from here down to here. Press escape. And what happens is when you print this or make a PDF of it to send in to me, you'll have your student number here on every sheet. Okay, so this is all I want to get you to do if you can. We'll save this thing. This is before tomorrow, Tuesday. So this is just opening up AutoCAD, and we're setting up a kind of a template that we're going to use over and over again. I'll explain more tomorrow. So end of this 18-minute video.